There is some terrible manifestation advice out there which is doing nothing except keeping you stuck in fear and perpetuating your current circumstances. In today's video, I'm going to reveal that advice to you so that you can avoid it. Hey everyone, my name's Georgia. I just finished studying a master's degree in consciousness, spirituality and transpersonal psychology, and in my free time I love to study the law of attraction. Today I'm going to cover what I believe are 3 of the worst pieces of law of attraction advice so that you can avoid them, and I'm going to suggest what I would do instead. This is important because manifestation is supposed to be a good thing in your life. Even if you don't believe in the more esoteric side of it, manifestation techniques are going to be beneficial from a neuroscientific perspective. But if you want to experience the benefits, it's crucial that you don't fall into these 3 traps. So the first piece of terrible manifestation advice is that you always have to be in a positive vibration. And the reason this is bad advice is because it creates fear around negative emotions. This is a very toxic place to find yourself in because negative emotions are a natural part of life. You're always going to experience them. Unless you maybe become enlightened, maybe you won't experience them then. But for those of us who are not enlightened and who are going to experience them, negative emotions aren't inherently bad. The only bad thing about them is how they feel. And the only time that they may actually become a problem and have a negative influence on your reality is if you don't address them and you allow them to build up and become suppressed. And guess when this happens? It happens when we're afraid of them, when we're afraid to face them. We naturally suppress emotions when we don't want to face them, and this toxic positivity, this idea that you always have to be in a positive state, just gives you another reason to fear facing them and so to suppress them as a result. So this perpetuation of the idea that negative emotions are bad and that you always have to be in a high vibrational state can turn them into something that is objectively negative. That's all that fear does. It causes these emotions to become suppressed and it prevents us from processing them in a healthy way. In reality, all we need to do is see these emotions for what they are, which is a natural part of life and simply a reaction to something we've experienced. All we need to do is process them. Processing them, which just means to feel your emotions, allows them to pass as they're supposed to, and it also allows us to grow and heal, which is obviously a good thing. They're not going to cause any harm or block your manifestations if you process them in a healthy way. So no, you don't always have to be in a high vibrational state. You are allowed to experience your negative emotions. The second piece of terrible manifestation advice is that you have to completely ignore your current circumstances. Some manifestation advice will encourage you to deny or ignore your current problems, whether it be financial struggles or health issues, because the idea is that focusing on them will attract more of it and attract more negativity. On a practical level, this can lead to people ignoring their responsibilities and not seeking help when it's needed. If we use the example of someone who's struggling with their health, whilst there are spiritual approaches that can be incredibly powerful, and I would definitely encourage exploring those, you're not any less spiritual if you go and see a doctor. And in most cases, you should definitely do that, just like how there are many other things in this physical reality that you are going to have to do to address your current circumstances. Whether it is going to the doctor, or maybe you have a bill that needs paying, you can't just not pay that bill. You might end up with someone on your doorstep trying to collect money from you. But from a spiritual perspective, where this advice becomes harmful is because it can lead to resistance. If I tell you to not think of something, then you're much more likely to think of that thing. For example, if I sit here right now and tell you, do not think of a pink bear, then I'm willing to bet that you just thought about a pink bear. The more you try to ignore a circumstance and not think about it, the more resistance you're likely to build around it, as well as probably panic and fear and all of these other unpleasant emotions. And what we know about resistance is resistance equals persistence. So the more we resist these circumstances, the more we're going to cause them to persist. So what I would suggest instead is that you accept the circumstances, surrender to them, make peace with how they currently are. It might also help to see them as opportunities for growth. But if you can make peace with your current circumstances, it's going to allow you to drop that resistance, which in turn is going to make it much easier to focus on the reality that you're trying to create. Note though that when I say to accept the circumstances, I do not mean to perpetuate them. If, for example, you are struggling with money, Do not go around moaning about all the things that you can't afford. Don't go around telling people that you're having financial struggles. Simply accept the circumstances and do what you need to do, whether that is paying a bill or not buying something you can't afford, but leave it there. It's this line between not ignoring and resisting the circumstances, but also not emphasizing the circumstances more than is necessary, because it's the latter that might cause you to step into manifesting more of it and remaining stuck. But simply accepting the circumstances and making peace with them could be a crucial step in allowing you to shift into a state in which you are better able to manifest the reality that you want to experience instead. Now, the third piece of terrible manifestation advice is that the only thing you need to do is visualize. Now, I am all for visualization. I think it's incredibly powerful. We have a type of neuron in our brain called a mirror neuron, which activates both when we physically do something and imagine doing that thing. So we can actually strengthen our neural pathways simply through imagining doing something. The placebo effect also shows that the mind by itself can be incredibly powerful. Studies have shown that patients have been able to heal themselves without any medication simply because they believed they had received the medication. With all of that being said though, I think when visualization is over-relied upon, then it leads to people downplaying the importance of action when it comes to manifesting. Now, I'm not saying it's impossible to manifest simply through using your mind. I am a little bit more esoteric in that sense. However, your manifestation abilities are going to be so much more powerful when you combine actions with the power of your mind. It's about recognizing the importance of both the physical and the spiritual, not over-relying on either, instead recognizing the importance of both. But it's also about belief. A huge part of manifestation is believing that something is possible for you. And it's going to be very difficult to believe if you're not taking the necessary steps. So taking action is actually going to reinforce the belief system that you're trying to create that will be in line with the reality that you're trying to create. So do the visualization, but don't forget how important taking action is too. So now you know what not to do. If you want to know what you should do to shift your circumstances and why you need to do it, then you can watch this video next, in which I explain every step of the manifestation process. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up, and I hope to see you in the next one.